All right, y'all. We're a little late, but we are here live on this Thursday night to talk about WoW and all of its crazy stuff that it has going on. You have the mystery of whether or not the Beast used brass knuckles in her match against Abilene Maverick for the WoW World title. You have tag team action up and down, and of course, the finals of the WoW Trios tournament. This is Steph and Cat Talk WoW.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape. Every one of us, I was kinda late, so I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, got
That's right, y'all. It is Steph and Cat Talk Wow live on this Thursday night, coming at you to talk about the ins and outs of WoW superheroes, WoW women of wrestling, and all of the things. Of course, I'm your girl Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, color commentator featured on the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, Black Girl Magic 2022, and Spartan Wrestling, and contributing writer for Daily DDT. But of course, I am not alone. I am with my partner in crime, my tag team partner. She is the creator of In Cat We Trust. She is an accomplished writer on her own, a super mom, and just an all around terrific person. She is Katrina Blake. How are you, Kat?
I am okay. Happy to be here. A little tired, but happy to be here. I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm tired too because I did just get off from work, hence why we're a little bit late this evening. But of course, if you are watching on any one of our live platforms, be it on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, or anywhere else, thank you so much for tuning in as we dive into this past weekend's show. And of course, if there's any components of the show that you really, really liked or did not like or whatever, chime in the comments and your comment might be on the screen. Of course, we have Eric Isaac, who was in here yesterday in the comments saying, hey, but now he's here today to say, hey, thank you so much for your consistent and constant support of the show. And just, as we continue to go on this journey, just talking about how this show is evolving. So, oh my God. This episode was crazy. It was really crazy because you had tag team action, you had a lot of ins and outs of the trios tournament coming into fruition, and just so much going on. So, Katrina, how did you feel about the episode as a whole before we get into it?
It was a solid episode. I did have some thoughts about some things, but it was a solid episode nonetheless. But I do have thoughts. But when we get to that, then I'll say those thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. And I know exactly what you're talking about. So let's not hesitate any further. Let's get into the things. So, to start the show off, we started with an interview with David McClain with The Beast, who, of course, was accused of cheating in her world title match with Abilene Maverick, who somehow or another slipped some brass knuckles in her trunks. And David McClain was really asking her, like, yo, what's really going on? Like, did you use the brass knuckles at all? And the Beast was saying that she felt bamboozled and she felt like she'd been lied on and cheated, which is so funny because it reminded me of Vicky Winans' song "Long as I Got King Jesus," because that's literally how she starts the song. I've been lied on, cheated, talked about, mistreated, and I was like, "Yo, what's going on?" But she was really expressing her feelings and saying that she just felt like she was cheated out of her opportunity, that she knows that she could have won fairly and really just single-handedly won. It would have been like a one-sided thing. Basically, how the match was going even though Abilene was, showing off a bit with her athleticism, the Beast dominated her throughout the match. So it's basically safe to assume that the Beast would not have cheated to win, but she's, in this predicament. And even when we saw the Wow Vision replay, we did not see anywhere where she used those brass knuckles. So out pops the Wow World Champion Abilene Maverick, and she's out here in this cute outfit. I will give her that. She was in this really cute outfit with like a crop top in high heels, but get this, in crutches and with her head bandaged up. I was like, now, if you are on crutches, why are you in high heels? Why? This is how we know there was some evil afoot right here. Like, I mean, I've been new, but honestly, for you to come out with high heels on and crutches, it was just aggravating. So she comes out there and she talks trash to the Beast, calling her Beastie Poo and talking about how, you're just mad that I won it fair and square and I'm the rightful champion, which is something she keeps trying to say over and over again. But it was just really sad to see the Beast be so angry over something that she knows belongs to her. And David McClain was like, look, if you're really as injured as you said you are, because Abilene said she had a concussion, then I need to see a doctor's report. And Abilene, of course, kept, giving excuses as to why she couldn't give it or whatever. So in the midst of that, David said, look, the Beast, once we do more of a thorough investigation, you will have your rematch with Abilene for the title. And Abilene protested, but hey, he was just like, look, I need to see proof that you can't fight. And if you can't give it to me, then this match will still go on. And that's how that segment ended. So, Katrina, how did you feel about what the Beast had to say? And how did you feel about what Abilene was out here acting like with this cute little outfit and her crutches?
I understand why the Beast felt the way she did, because this is my thing with David. This is always the issue I have. If you watched the footage that everybody watched, then it was obvious that nothing happened. And people who technically tend to use brass knuckles is usually more cowardly. There's nothing cowardly about the Beast at all. Never has been. Brass knuckles is a cowardly type of move. You put brass knuckles sneakily, you put them on and hit somebody sneakily. Those are all cowardly type moves. Nor would she need to use it if she was basically winning. What would be the point if you had it in the bag, per se? And so, David sent him told me to investigate more thoroughly. I wish there was this level of dedication of investigation when she got hurt the first time. Like the fact that we had to find out because of Sophia Lopez's intel is insane. David, where was you doing when she was champion and had to be outlawed? Like, where was this level of thorough investigation? So this is, once again, I'm annoyed because I'm like, why is it that you going to go all hard for Apple? Like, why are we doing this? It shouldn't need to be this much of an investigation. We all saw she didn't do anything, and nor would she need to. Again, that's a cowardly type of a move. And if, again, I don't know, not that I've had a concussion, I've never had one, but just from dealing with my own stuff. And if you got head trauma or neck trauma or whatever trauma you have, you would not be in heels. Cute as can be, they will probably tell you not to be in heels. And if you need to rest because you have concussion, why are you here talking nonsense? Rest. Be home resting. Why are you here? And so that for me, I'm just like, girl, like if y'all don't get this belt off her soon, because like I'm over it. Like every week she says some nonsense and I just get more irritated. And I'm like, y'all really sitting here buying this nonsense when she's what I would call, I don't even want to say like she's a mean girl. I feel like the mean girls is definitely the Fab Four. Those are what you fall under mean girl vibes. But I feel like she's even worse about it because with the Fab Four, you kind of knew what you were getting to an extent. Like you knew they were going to be doing stuff. You knew they were going to be mean. Her, it's this whole, I don't know what you like. I don't like, she's gaslighty. That's the vibe she's on. It's very I don't like that. So I'm gonna need them. I need David to get it together. I don't know what he needs to see so he can see it, as that meme goes. He needs to be more clear about what he's seeing, and then have this girl have a match or take the belt. She's so hurt that she can't wrestle. Fine, take the belt. The Beast had to take the belt taken from her when she couldn't wrestle. So do the same vibes. If this is the equal opportunity or equal fair way how we playing this, then he needs to do that. But he's getting on my nerves because I'm like, why are you even allowing these shenanigans? Like it is so obvious she's lying. Like nobody's like, I'm concussed, but let me be cute while I'm concussed. Girl, please. So I just need that belt get off of her, like ASAP. If she's a champion for another month, I don't know. I don't know. I just no, I can't deal with that because like I'm like every time she says something, I'm like, oh, girl, get off my screen with the nonsense. Like, but the Beast was right. I do think she definitely was bamboozled. I love that word. Bamboozled is definitely a word I like to use. Uh, and she's right. She definitely was.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Katrina. And you brought up two really good points. First of all, you brought up the point of her of the Beast being injured and having to give up the title and not being able to defend it. But then you have Abilene who's out here acting like, she's just the picture of terrible health. And she hasn't been asked to give up her title at all. And that's something that isn't unfair. And that's a little bit inconsistent on David McLean's part as a leader. And I'm really glad that you brought that up. And then number two, there's the point of Abilene just being a gaslighter. Like, you're absolutely right. It's just like, the horrid type of mean is like you could be mean and say negative things and negative comments to people, and people know you're mean, because you're putting it out there and you're being blunt about it. But the type of meanness that I definitely can't stand is when you're covertly mean and try to make it seem like the person, is crazy for even bringing up what's going on and making it seem like their reality isn't real. And it's just the worst thing that you could ever do. And I just cannot stand that Abilene acts that way. And I feel like a part of the reason why she does that is because number one, she's a governor's daughter. Number two, she has this sort of happy peppy life in Las Vegas and it's very privileged. And when you've been privileged for as long as possible, you think you can just get away with anything. And I honestly feel that at some point there's going to be some type of footage that somebody's going to have backstage mysteriously, kind of like NXT Anonymous, where we're going to see how she had the brass knuckles planted in her trunks. Like, I feel like somehow or another that's going to happen and we're going to see her comeuppance. Or maybe we won't, and then the Beast will just destroy her even further, limb from limb, and we won't see her anymore. But either way, it was really frustrating because the Beast didn't deserve that. She deserved to have that title back. And the fact that it got snatched away from her due to being accused of something she didn't do, it's just absolutely ridiculous and it's ugly and it's trash. So yeah, Abilene Maverick is just, she's just really a desperate woman. And when you're desperate, you're willing to do anything to win. So hopefully justice, for the Beast will come sooner rather than later. And in the comments, we have Ernest saying Abilene Maverick is a horrible champion. David McLean should strip her of the D word title. The Beast got hosed. Okay. Yeah, I understand what you mean from that. And thank you for that assessment. But yeah, we move from that segment into the very first match, which was, of course, the Mother Truckers, the new WoW Tag Team Champions, going up against the Classmaster and the Disciplinarian, Team IQ Superior. And then, of course, you have Samantha Smart out there. Now, hilariously enough, Samantha Smart tried to go out there and talk to the crowd first, and they were not trying to hear what she had to say. She was saying that the tag team titles deserve, a team of distinction and of more intelligence. And she even called the honk honk chant that the mother truckers do a primitive grunt. And I was just like, that's the worst thing you could ever say. That is not a primitive grunt. That's the sound that trucks make. Like, what is wrong with you? And every time she was trying to talk, she was insulting the intelligence of the WoW universe. And she was like, y'all need to be quiet and listen to me. Like, it was giving this type.
Okay, children, parents, it's time to do our cultural exchange. Quiet now.
Okay, quiet, you future hamburger flippers.
Like, that's the energy it was giving. And she was just trying to get everybody to be quiet and listen to her. But no one's gonna want to listen to you if you're insulting them, okay? So the mother truckers came out, made their entrance, and the match got started, and then Holly Swag wound up starting the match with the Classmaster. And there was a complete size difference between the two, as you can tell, because Holly is, of course, a smaller girl, and the Classmaster is more of a taller, thicker build. And so every time they tried to lock up, it was almost like, Holly couldn't get a shove in. And then they locked up a second time or a third time, and the Classmaster wound up pushing her all the way back into the corner, and she just tagged in her mama. And her mama, of course, was giving her what for and everything. And then the disciplinarian wound up getting tagged in. And there was lots of good action there. And right here is where you see Holly biting the Classmaster, which hilariously enough, Samantha Smart on social media said that Team IQ Superior deserves a rematch because of her biting her. And I was just like, biting is fair. Biting and wrestling is fair because people have done it countless times. So you know what? It happens. And the disciplinarian was impressive, with a lot of her athleticism on display as she's lifting up Holly for a suplex and all of that. But in the end, the Mother Truckers wound up retaining their titles against Team IQ Superior, and it was a relatively good match. And I love that the Mother Truckers are fighting champions because they just won the tag team titles last weekend. And then they cut a promo talking about, how they're just really proud to be champions and just how happy they were to beat Team IQ Superior. So this was a really good showing for them, and of course they're still our Wild World Tag Team champions. So Katrina, how did you feel about this match?
That was a good one. I did like that the disciplinarian, she's been getting more consistent what I've said from like season one, with just using her assets in regards to her size. Like, you have some height, you have some weight, and that's something you should use. And I definitely felt like she was using it. I felt like Classmaster did that pretty early on, where she kind of used that to her advantage. And it's nice to kind of see the disciplinarian doing the same thing. I'm like, all right, okay, yes, do that. Just use that to your advantage. Did it help in this match? No. And it might just been, the fighting spirit of the Mother Truckers. But I know you said you was okay with biting. I don't like when anybody bite. I feel like biting's like mm, unless you're into that kind of thing. With permission, I'm funny about how people just like biting and stuff. I'm just like, I don't know. It's like that's what children may do if they're having a tantrum. That's kind of what I associate with. So I'm like, I don't know if I don't know if they deserve a rematch, because you guys were doing shenanigans quite a few times, Team IQ Superior, when you guys were in matches. There was stuff definitely going on that you're like, girl. So I don't know if that doesn't mean you necessarily need a rematch, but I can see to an extent, like, all right, I don't know if I would particularly like the biting either. But you guys, I guess, is owed for other knots that you guys have done to other people in other matches, this whole time. So it's not crazy that something came back in that way. But otherwise, I thought it was a good match.
Yeah, it was a good match, and honestly, I just feel like if I feel like biting shows aggression. Like I in wrestling, it just shows an extra level of aggression, and that's really the only reason I like it. Now, mind you, if you bite me in real life, I mean, I would hate that because, of course, that's germs and all of that. But in wrestling, I'm just here for whatever gets into the opponent's head. I mean, I'm just an excited person when it comes to stuff like that. But yeah, like I just love, that the Mother Truckers are finding more of their groove and they're able to keep these titles for a long period of time. Then on top of that, you have a boatload of different opponents that they could have at any point that wants to fight them. You have the Tonga Twins and you have so many other teams as well that might want to fight them. So I'm really happy and prepared for whatever is going to come from that. So yeah, this was a really great showing, and I actually would love to see the disciplinarian sort of be on her own a little bit more. But I feel like considering Team IQ Superior has already lost one member, they might not need to lose another one. But either way, they did a good job. But of course, the Mother Truckers are still the champs. So moving in to match number 2, we have Las Bandidas with Sophia Lopez, the world's greatest attorney, versus the Tonga Twins. And this was a very confusing moment for me because I did see on social media that Sophia Lopez had to make a business decision to replace Vivian Rivera with a new member. And she did this because the last 2 matches they had, Vivian Rivera took the pin and said that it was nothing personal, but that it was just business. And I'm sitting here like, so you mean to tell me You gonna replace Big Viv with this person? Excuse me? Like, what the heck do you mean? And her name is Angel Rose. So now it's Angel Rose and Sylvia Sanchez. And I just could not believe it. I was just like, Vivian Rivera had always been one of my favorites. And then I had also had the pleasure of meeting her at WrestleMania last year in LA. So I was just like, yo, what the heck is going on with Vivian? So you just tossed her to the side and we're just never going to see her again? I didn't like that at all. That was my girl. Like, no. But of course, they went on to challenge the former tag team champions, and they were doing pretty good. And I will say this, Angel Rose kind of did grow on me a whole lot, throughout the match. A lot of her action was really solid, and you definitely had a differing of styles here because you have Las Bandidas and a lot of their lucha background going up against the sheer power of the Tonga Twins, and their hard hits and everything. And all of that was on display in this match. It was really good. I particularly enjoyed it. But what I did not enjoy, however, was when Angel Rose decided to use Sophia Lopez's briefcase to try to knock one of the Tonga twins in the head. But then out comes Miss Tiki Chamorro to save the day and stop Sophia Lopez and Angel Rose from cheating. And then, as it turns out, because of Tiki's interference, one of the Tonga twins moved out of the way and hit, and Angel Rose wound up hitting Sylvia Sanchez in the head with the briefcase, and then they wound up hitting their Tonga twist on her for the win. And the Tonga twins won. So that was really good, and I was really happy that they won a match, especially or won another match, especially after them losing the tag titles. So this was really good. I enjoyed it. But Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the replacement of Vivian Rivera with Angel Rose? And do you think the chemistry is there with Las Bandidas?
Maybe it was good. The Tongas are my girls, and so I was happy with the win. I was glad that they got that. I thought it was a little bit weird of Sophia though, just because I was like, oh, so you brought her in, and technically, to be fair, Vivian is the one with seniority. She was there before you brought in to kind of like throw her off to the side and add somebody else's news. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm like, that's not nice. Like, it's not nice behavior. And I get, might be sometimes moving pieces, but I feel like there's ways to go about doing that type of thing. And just say it's a business decision kind of makes it feel like this. You didn't even care too much about her as part of your team, as part of your group of athletes, your group of women that she was representing. I didn't get the vibe that, I mean, a good lawyer would usually try to keep their clients, if that's the way you want to call it. They would try to do that. And so I was like, oh, okay. It's kind of a weird way to have, like, to do this. Like, they couldn't do it nicer. I don't know. I didn't particularly like the way that was done, but I thought they worked well together. I thought they worked well together, but I did feel the way a little bit about Vivian. And while she was, not heel last season necessarily, I don't know. I just felt it was weird for me to kind of see how she just pushed her off to the side, like just a business decision. Like, girl, Sylvia was also responsible for some losses before. We gotta stop these shenanigans. Like, if she was responsible for all the losses, I'd be like, all right. But like, no, I just didn't feel like that was really nice. That wasn't really girl type, like that for the girls. I don't know if that was one of those moments that she was for the girls after doing that in that way. But I thought it was a good match overall, and I like that Tiki kind of came out there and still showed her sisterhood of helping them out when needed. Especially considering they weren't too nice to her. The Tongas weren't too nice to Tiki a few weeks ago, and I didn't get, like, I know they, I guess, kind of hashed it a little bit, but I'm like, I can hold a grudge, so I'm side eyeing just tad, like, okay, well, you keep her close and be nice to Tiki Shimura, but otherwise I thought it was a good match.
Yeah, it was a good match, and I just feel like Vivian deserved better than that, than to just be replaced in that way. Like, hopefully we'll see her again, sometime as, the season continues to progress. But I just didn't like the way that she was done. But, However, I will say that Angel Rose did seem like a pretty cool, component to Las Bandidas. She didn't look completely lost or out of her wits when it came to the rhythm of the tag team, so I was pretty okay with that. I was okay with it, but then at the same time, I still have in the back of my mind, like, bro, like, where's Vivian? And I think hopefully we'll get an answer to that within the coming weeks. But either way, I just needed more clarity on that. But I am glad that the Tonga twins are rising above and continuing to, rack up some wins because as far as we know, they could want to challenge the mother truckers because they did tell us in our interview with them that they haven't faced the mother truckers yet. So I could only imagine, how high the stakes would be if they had to face them, for the tag titles that they once held. So I think that would just be really cool for them, and I'm glad that they are on a winning streak, and I'm glad that Tiki and them are on good terms again because it's like we keep saying, like when the Tongas were the tag team champions, they wanted to low key act like it didn't have room for her, but now that she's actually in the fold of their sisterhood a little bit more and they're not the champions, they're a little bit more acceptable of it. So hopefully they can, iron that out and figure that out and maybe they'll be back in the tag title picture once again. You just never know. So after that, we had a little bit of backstage segments involving, of course, the trios tournament. We saw a little bit of an argument between Exile and Genesis, sort of claiming herself as the leader of Exile, as Ice Cold and Exodus sort of had an issue with it. But even though they had their issues with it, they really just essentially decided to put it to the side because they were really focused on trying to win the trios tournament in the finals. So they were just like, okay, fine, whatever. But even in the midst of that, it low key gave me the impression that they were going to have so much dissension that it was going to get in their way and that maybe they would sabotage each other. It just wasn't going to work out. And I was just like, man, like this is just really insane. But then it gets even crazier involving the trios tournament where you see Coach Campanelli, Miss Ma'am, tell um as she's preparing Team Spirit, for the finals match, she's sort of telling them that she has an announcement to make about, what their team is going to be doing. So she has them, carry this bench. And all three of them, Ariel, Pep, and Sasha, carry the bench up the steps. And she makes the announcement that, towards the end, or at least towards the end of the night, she will make a decision as to which one on Team Spirit will be, going forward in the trios finals match. And this, kind of put me on edge a bit because I was just like, oh, what's happening here? This adds a different wrinkle to it. Like, huh? Um, why are we picking people? Why can't you just let, Ariel's guy seems better, so why can't you just let Ariel, Pep, and Sasha just fight while you coach? Like, why does it have to be this kind of, cutthroat type of thing? So they carry the bench out of the ring. We don't see them anymore, and we don't see them anymore until like the very end. And after that point, they made the announcement on the episode that we will see Katarina Jinx, another supporter of the podcast, of us in this show, face off against Princess Aussie. And I can't wait to see how that match goes. Like, I feel like that's going to be a really good match, so I am excited about that. But that was really the only announcement that they made for a match for this weekend's episode. So, with that in mind, we go towards the main event, which was the finals match of the first ever WoW Trios tournament, with Team Exile versus what we thought was going to be Team Spirit. So after Team Exile comes out and does their entrance, Team Spirit comes out, and Coach gets on the microphone and starts to talk about who's going to participate in the match and who isn't. And the first person that is cut from the team and has to be benched turns out to be Sasha Sparks, which did not surprise me at first because I was just like, okay, well, I guess that kind of makes sense considering she's the newest, but at the same time, she was still, she still showed herself to be a good team member. So, I mean, okay, girl, let's see where you're going with this. And then she went on to even cut Pep Riley and Ariel Sky. And I was like, Ariel Sky's not even injured anymore. What are you doing? And Pep Riley wasn't injured either. So why are you cutting all of them and benching them, and making them watch after they fought tooth and nail to even get this far in the tournament? And it gets even crazier after that. She announces that the new team that's going to be fighting side by side with her in the final match was going to be Candy Crush or Crush and Gloria Glitter. I was gagged. I was like, "Excuse me?" I did not like this at all when I first was watching it because I was just like, so you just gonna throw away the whole team that's been in this tournament the whole time for another A team that you just decided to pick. Like I was just upset. I was in my feelings. But then a part of me felt even weirder about it because these are women that she had been talking to before, or at least one of them she had talked to before. So I was confused as to how Candy Crush came into things. So I was just like, okay, well, what's going to happen? So the match happened because we got more to talk about. The match happened. And it was really, really good on the part of both teams. Ice Cold was pretty impressive with a lot of her agility in this match. Gloria Glitter was on display with all of her, stepping madness and all of the above. You had Coach Campanelli, chiming in with a lot of what she had going on. And then, of course, you had Crush, applying a lot of her, boxing and wrestling combos together as well. And Team Exile seemed like they were doing a good job, but at the same time, they still had a little bit more dissension as they were tagging in and out. And it was just like, okay, how is this even going to go? Who's going to win what? What is even going to happen? But another thing that was consistent throughout this match was the fact that Team Spirit on the bench kept cheering, for Crush and Gloria and Coach. And it was just like, okay, I was just really just outdone by everything that was going on here. But the match was still really good and the action was very, very solid. Probably I would say one of the best of the entire tournament. And Coach Campanelli, I believe, wound up hitting the buzzer beater in order to win the trios tournament, and they won the entire match. And all of Team Spirit came in and celebrated with them as they consistently were like, "Yay, you guys won, all the above." And they were celebrating and they got presented with the trios trophy. Now, this is where things get crazy. So, y'all who are viewing this, see this picture. This is where Coach decides to make a speech. And she says, I'm just really happy that we won this tournament. But then she dedicated the trophy to Ariel Sky. And then everybody in the crowd was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe she's doing this." And Ariel looked really honored by it. But then Coach decides to go completely left field and say, if it was not for Ariel Sky bringing in another team member behind my back, and getting injured in the tournament, then I would not know what type of coach I could have been. So this is dedicated to you, Ariel. We could not have done this without you. And so she's presenting the trophy to Ariel after that backhanded compliment. But then as Ariel is out in the front, she hits Ariel Sky in the back. And then Crush and Gloria Glitter proceeds to attack Sasha and Pep, beat them all the way up. Beat them all up. And Coach is beating them up at this point too. And they toss Ariel Sky out. She was grabbing her neck looking like maybe she had landed weird on it. The other girls were thrown out. And Coach gets the microphone again and says, "Team Spirit is dead. We are now top tier." As she's holding her arms out, looking more devious than she's ever looked. And Gloria and Crush are looking very pleased with themselves. And then they hop up on the turnbuckles and celebrate. And it's so funny they're celebrating, but the trophy is all torn up at this point. So they're celebrating, and now they're top tier. And that's how the episode ended. Everybody was bewildered and just taken aback by what was going on. I was gagged, but I'm gonna talk more about how I felt about it in a minute. Katrina, girl, how did you feel about this mess?
I know you used the word gagged. I was kind of annoyed, honestly, and there's for a few reasons, because this whole like bringing another member, for instance, behind her back, like, were you not having auditions? And I've seen, while I wasn't a cheerleader, I've seen how cheerleading teams usually work. And usually it's a bunch of people that would look at people joining the team and then they will decide, this person might be a good fit. So that whole, and yes, the coach has some say so, but so does the other girls on the team. That's how it works. And then couldn't Randy, if you want to get technical, wasn't Ariel Randy's replacement technically? Because she was the first. It was just you and Randy. Just you and Randy. It's just two of you girls. And all of a sudden we had Ariel Sky. And then all of a sudden we didn't have Randy at all. Uh and so I was like, that's a odd way to look at it, because you definitely moved in ways that wasn't necessarily for the team, it was more for you. Having them sit on the bench as if they didn't do anything in the tournament, didn't like that. I felt like that's a bit rude. I personally that wouldn't have happened for me. I would have been like, all right, so clearly you want an altercation, because like I'm not sitting on. I didn't work hard to get to the end, and this is what. No, absolutely not. We mentioned about how Genesis was slightly mean a little bit weeks ago, how she was talking to her members of Exile, to Ice Cold, to Exodus. Like, she wasn't necessarily being nice, but she still had her team. She didn't do anything weird during the tournament, because as she did say during my interview with her, she did say she was technically the only trios, and she's right. And you think of all the teams that kind of had to add a member, and why Ice Cold did flounder a bit, because we didn't know what she was doing. It wasn't that she was floating in exile necessarily, it's because she didn't know where she was fitting in general. I felt in the WoW locker room, and she figured it out. She clearly figured it out, because she's been a member of the team that looks like she's there. And so while Genesis might not have went about the right way of how I guess she was saying it before the matchup, she's right. They were the only actual trios, and Exile was a trios from the very beginning. That was a trios, and maybe the Heavy Metal Sisters, but they are not technically, you know what I mean. They weren't in this tournament. So of the tournament, there was plenty of people that they switched out a few times to make the 3-person rule, and so to kind of have that happen, and then you put 2 members who did nothing the whole tournament, and then have the people who actually did have to wrestle during the tournament. It's like, oh, you did this. Well, it's kind of like doing a group project and doing all the work, which I've been, unfortunately, in these situations. You do all the work, and then that one person who did nothing gets credit for what you did, or you get no credit at all. That's it. I feel like everybody's might have had that experience. It sucks. Nobody wants to be the person working extra hard for nothing, and this is not even discrediting Candy Crush and Gloria Glitter, because in that match they did wrestle, but that was one match of many. That was one match in the finals. It's like you making it to the NBA finals and you did nothing the whole season, yet you sitting here feeling for a ring. Like, you didn't do that. I mean, and I know this is a team sport. I mean, everybody gets a ring, but like, there's nothing worse to me when I'm watching somebody who you didn't do shit the whole season and you sitting here hype. Like, what do you even do? Like, relax. Like, you be happy, but maybe tone your excitement down just a tad, because you even do nothing. Like, calm down. And that's the vibe I got from that. So yeah, they did something in the last final match, but y'all girls, like. And so that was that. I didn't particularly like that. I didn't like that at all. And to do that really weird backhanded comments, I don't like backhanded compliments. I don't like those at all. Like, you stand on what you say, sis. So if this is how you feel, you say what you feel. Don't try to act like we buddy and saying that. Nope, you stand on what you mean. Stand on what you're saying. I didn't like that either. And this, Crush, she peoples and all. But I didn't like this. I'm sorry, I did not like this. And having to also, interviewed with her as well. And it was like, I get wanting to do things that would work a little better for you, and I totally understand you felt the way about even your friendship. Totally understand that. We all probably had a friendship that went away at some point. I feel like everybody can relate to that, and that's understandable. But to then say you felt unappreciative, and then you put yourself in a position where you basically made 3 other people feel unappreciative. I'm like, girl, did you not just complain about feeling unappreciative as a friend? That Princess Aussie wasn't coming to you as a friend. She wasn't being there for you as a friend, and then you were perfectly fine with Coach doing this to what was supposed to be her squad. I feel like that's even worse because you're supposed to be in charge of the girls. You the coach, be in charge of the girls, and that's what you do. And so I didn't like any of that. I was actually like, oh, so not only did Exile the actual trios team in this whole tournament, the actual trios team in this tournament made it to the finals and not win, and they earned that win, even with the little hiccups over the weeks where it didn't seem like they were on the same page. They earned it. They did to make it to the finals. So not only did they not win, then you do this to your actual team who helped you with this. Somebody who stepped in for Ariel because she got hurt. And then you do all that, like, well, F the trophy. And then to say that the coach you could be, like, girl, last season, did you guys not make it to a title shot? Wasn't you guys tag champions? You had to coach something well enough to get that. Like, I'm like, are we, like, am I missing something here? So I wasn't particularly happy about that. I honestly was not. I was like, oh, girls, now I have to look at you. Now I gotta sign. I don't like that. I don't like shady girls. I don't like that. And that was a shady move. Very shady, on the part of them, and I really felt bad. And I said in particular for Ariel Sky, because she genuinely was like, oh, and out of this group of girls, she's the OG of the group now because, Randy's gone. And you brought 2 new people after that. And so she the OG to treat her like that, like she wasn't trying to truly be helpful as well to me. And she's helped you even when Randy wasn't. She came in, she helped. During that period when she first got there and she had to step in, she stepped in. And so you couldn't give her her time because she got hurt. You couldn't just give her that. Like, I didn't like that. I was like, Coach, I was already kind of iffy about you anyway because I didn't like how you was talking sometimes. Like, personally, wouldn't be me, Coach, not talking me crazy, but I was like, oh, so you one of those girls. Okay, Coach. And so it just changed my whole perception. I was like, oh, well, this doesn't make me happy at all. And I felt bad for the girls of Team New Spirit are now not really Spirit because clearly she wasn't being nice. She was being mean spirited, and not Team Spirit at all. And so yeah, I was just like, oh, I'm looking at y'all real sideways right now for this. Like, what? I know that EXO had to feel away. Like, imagine doing all that, you don't win, and then this is the nonsense that happens right after. So, like, you could have celebrated maybe nice with the trophy, and you see the trophy pretty much get messed up because they want to do these shenanigans. It's just craziness to me. So, yeah, I wasn't really happy. And I know that I went a little bit of a tangent, my bad, but I was not happy about it. I was highly not happy with that.
Like, I wasn't happy with it either, but I was just gagged that it was going on. Okay, but I'll get into that, into how it actually made me feel from a women's wrestling perspective a little bit later. But just to piggyback off of what you said, the reason why I feel that Coach did what she did was because she was upset that she did not have a say in bringing in another team member. Because you did mention how she did have the auditions with Ariel Scott earlier in season 2. And once they found Pep Riley and they accepted her, I think that was when she was finished with it. She had ended and closed all the audition stuff, in her mind and ended it. It was the idea that Ariel Sky took the agency within herself to find someone else to join the team for the trios tournament that I feel that Coach didn't like. And this was episodes ago where I noted that Coach was very upset about it because even when they introduced Sasha and Sasha was trying to be friendly about it and everything, Coach stormed out. She stormed out of their locker room and she gave a tip to Gloria Glitter, who had lost a match in that episode, and, Gloria listened to her and she liked that. And something that has been showing in Coach Campanelli since this iteration of WoW has started is the fact that she likes to be the number one girl. She wants to be the number one coach that wants to have all the ideas and everybody else just has to go along to get along with it. And This has definitely manifested itself. This has been bubbling to the surface since last season, but now it's just full aggression now. And because she's, angry at Ariel for that, and then I guess angry at her for being injured, all of it just coalesced and came out in this way. So you have Coach's anger. Then you have I'm sorry, you have Crush's anger. No disrespect. You have Crush's anger. And she's out here, taking out her anger at Princess Aussie out on everybody else. And then she's feeding into the negativity of it while, bringing other people into the negativity as well. And then you got Gloria, who just thinks she's better than anybody, or basically just, herself anyway. She's been brought into it, and now you have top tier, and they think that, they're better than everyone at this point, and they are, the winners of the trios title now. And I can only imagine how that's gonna go. And how much, havoc they're gonna wreak on everybody else, in the trios division. But Lord have mercy. It's just a lot of anger and a lot of aggression that's coalescing now in the formation of this team. And yo, it was just insane the way that it happened. Now, from a women's wrestling perspective, I feel like that was I feel like when it comes to conversations involving um wrestling promotions, WoW isn't giving a whole lot of credit at all. Like they're hardly if ever, brought up in conversations outside of, a few people either writing about them, off and on, or with us and all of the above. But the thing is, I find that they don't get a lot of credit for what they do with their storylines. And I will say this, the way that they trickled in this heel turn for Coach Campanelli from last season all the way up until now was probably one of the most brilliant heel turns I've ever seen a woman do. Like, this was one of the most brilliant heel turns I have ever seen a woman participate in the entire years I've been watching wrestling. And I saw Trish Stratus turn on Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 20. That was heartbreaking. Okay. But this heel turn was magnificent, and it was delicious in all of the ways that you can come to expect from other promotions, and other promotions get so much credit for it. But I just want to take the time to give WoW their flowers, because we do that anyway on a regular basis. But I just want to give them their flowers for the way that this heel turn was executed. It was perfect. The acting was on point. The anger was on point. Everything about the story and everything with the motivations and everything, like all the episodes leading up to this point, was perfect, because I did not see this coming at all. I thought Coach was just going to be okay with Sasha being there, okay with everything, and then come to find out she isn't, and she unleashes it at the very end. Like, yo, like this could have been on some season finale type stuff if they really wanted it to be. But seeing as it's just March, we're still in the second half of season 2. But that was just fantastic. I just could not. I had no notes. I was just like, dang, perfect. Like, it was absolutely perfect. It was probably one of the best heel turns we're going to see this year from a wrestling perspective. Like, probably one of the best this year, and it's just March. I just have to give them credit for the way that it was executed. It was fantastic, like on a new level. I loved it, and if nobody else gives them credit for how it was executed, then we will, cause bitch, I was just, and I hate to cuss, but I was like, "Bitch, what the hell is going on?" I was just gagged. This was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. I couldn't have written a better heel turn. I couldn't have. I've never written a heel turn in my life, but if I could have written one, I don't think it could have been that perfect, because it just was. But yeah, Kat, do you have anything further to weigh in on what it means from a storyline perspective?
I don't know. I feel like you covered it. I more so just like I didn't like it, but this is more of a from a from a me standpoint, not so much necessarily a storyline, but I do feel like she's always. But I've said this before. Coach kind of always had me side eyeing her from season one because I'm like, you never talk to me like that. Like personally, they let her talk to them. A lot of them was allowing her to talk to them while crazy, and I'm like, you're not gonna say nothing. Like you got one time to talk to me, and I'm like, oh, because now I'm watching. Like we're not even gonna get this far into this. You trying to do a turn on me? All right, I already knew because you were doing these shenanigans in another season. Like I just felt like sometimes she would say things and I'm like, y'all just gonna let her say this? Y'all not gonna say nothing back? Like, couldn't be me. But as far as the other stuff you said, agreed.
Yeah, I just like I had to go back and watch it a good like 3 times after it aired because it airs on Saturdays for me here. So it's just like I watched it maybe 2 more times after it happened because I just thought it was just so it was just so well executed. I was like, wow, come on now. Come on now. Well, so kudos to everybody in that story, but I can't wait to see where it goes because baby, top tier is here and they are standing on business with that, and that's how the episode ended. But I just had to give them their credit for that. So of course, this weekend we have Katarina Jigs versus Princess Aussie. And maybe we'll hear more from top tier, maybe we won't. We just gotta wait and see. But either way, that was a fantastic end to an episode and I loved it. It was great. So thank you guys so much for watching, our episode of Steph and Cat Talk Wild tonight on this Thursday. We will be back hopefully next Wednesday, barring any other, interruptions from life and all of the above. So yeah, of course, if you don't watch Wow Superheroes, please find out where it airs for you, wherever you live in the United States or wherever. Go on wowie.com and type in your zip code or your city to see where it airs for you on regular television. Or you can watch their episodes as they, post them on their YouTube channel, which is at Wow Superheroes. Or, follow them definitely on social media at Wow Superheroes as well. They're amazing follows. If you say anything about their show or use a hashtag Wow Superheroes, they'll see it and they'll retweet it and interact with you. They're really great with us. And of course, watch all of our episodes, on both of our YouTube channels for the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust, and watch all of our interviews that we have done from Black History Month to Women's History Month, and even before that, with a lot of the Wow girls. We're so happy to have a working relationship with them and to have interviewed a lot of them, at this point. We're really honored and privileged that they wanted to come on our show and talk to us. So please check those interviews out if you have not already. So, Katrina, of course, thank you so much for being my tag team partner in life, and for this show. Tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
You can find me on most social media in Cat We Trust, Threads, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, Easy3. Follow my YouTube channel. That's where most of my stuff will be. And if you are in the local area of New York, New Jersey, I'm usually at least at some show doing backstage correspondence. And so if you're there, say hi. Don't be weird, but say hi. Um, but otherwise, catch me on social media or on bodyslam.net with Shay on after NXT because I'm also on there doing shenanigans sometimes. So follow me on all those spots.
Absolutely. And of course, know that you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter/X at Queen Steph Hardy. And you can follow the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod due to the characters. So also follow the YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe. Any clips you might see, please share them, retweet them, and talk about anything that resonates with you. And also, check out all of my articles for Daily DDT. I released a new one yesterday detailing how I felt about love and WWE, Bianca and Montez, and talked about how amazing their love story, is for the culture in terms of Black culture. So please read that article. I put a lot into it, and I felt, the show really resonated with me. So please read that article if you have not already, and read my other works with Daily DDT. And I thank them so much for giving me a space to write down my thoughts and everything. And also check me out on a regular episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. I had an episode last week, and I might do one this weekend depending on my availability because my work schedule is work scheduling. But we're going to keep it as consistent as we possibly can because wrestling is popping off and we're on the road to WrestleMania, y'all. So it's crazy. So yeah, check back with us here on Wednesday or unless otherwise stated as we talk about the ins and outs of the hottest all women's wrestling show on television, Wow Superheroes. And of course, this has been Steph and Cat Talk Wow. And until next time, bye y'all.